I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Ravikiran, who leads Dassault Systems Manufacturing and Logistics business in India. His role is to define the business strategy to expand Dassault Systems solutions footprint in India's rapidly growing manufacturing and logistics sector. Mr. Ravikiran started his career with Dassault Systems in 2004, donned various roles within his R&D organization for business development and assumed countrywide responsibility to grow the market share in its core industry verticals. For the last 4 years, he has been responsible for the growth potential of India's manufacturing and logistics sectors. Today, Mr. Ravikiran will talk on enabling next-gen pharma manufacturing through virtual twins. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Ravikiran.
Pharma industry is something that is, I think, probably called as almost close to, if not second, almost close to IT industry in India, right? So pharma is breaking so many barriers, it is taking the country far ahead. But there is also a concern. India is known to be a generics market, which is all about manufacturing generics at faster pace. It is an opportunity and a challenge because Indian context is all about generics. The drug development is not at a pace that we would like to have, is what I keep hearing. Okay, but at the same time, producing generics at a pace so that we become the supplier to the world. That's what we have done when COVID has happened, right? We were supplying one particular component to global needs, and most of the countries were sourcing it from India. Right? So there is a role to play for India from the pharma manufacturing standpoint. But the question that haunts all of us is: are we ready for that kind of pace and agility with which we have to enable this next generation manufacturing? Many of you may be knowing us as an aviation company, but just to correct those perceptions, that we are also working very closely with life sciences industry. I thought I'll introduce quickly on who are we, and then pharma industry trends and challenges. I have seen the earlier speaker covering about the trends and challenges, and as you rightly said, probably some of the things that I'll be touching upon again, and some of the trends that he was mentioning about, and what are the areas that the country should look at, more specifically the pharma manufacturer should look at as far as digital transformation is concerned. Currently, we are a very large organization, about 25,000 people, out of which 5,000 people are working only on pharma industry, developing various software products to design the drugs, to validate the clinical trials. For example, 80% of the vaccines that were developed during for COVID, be it Moderna, be it Pfizer, so many drugs that were developed, the entire clinical trials were done on using our platform called Medidata, right? And today, after COVID, earlier we used to have engineering, manufacturing, and infrastructure as our core industries, core sectors. Life sciences has grown significantly for us, has become one of the largest industries for Dassault Systems. And we work with almost 10,000 customers in this industry, including top 10 contract research organizations. And we have active partnerships with all the regulators across the globe. Right? So the idea of this slide is to tell you that Dassault name generally is resonated with aviation. Just wanted to clarify that we do have a very strong technological base to cater to the industry needs as far as pharma manufacturing is concerned. The trends and challenges. I think this is well covered by my earlier speaker. Personalized health, right? What does it mean? Today, the needs of patients, the sizes of the patients with similar categories of or similar profiles are becoming smaller and smaller. So there is a need for larger product mix with smaller batches, which result in exponential order increase. And also it is putting a lot of pressure on costs and profits, right? Because whenever you are creating a higher product mix in smaller batches, you have to ensure that your inventories are in check, your throughput is optimized. If you don't ensure the optimization of your throughput and inventory, it'll put a lot of pressure on your costs and profits. And the total quality is another aspect, because you're doing so much high product mix with smaller batches. It is becoming physically impossible to track the quality and the deadlines. So it becomes even more pertinent that there is focus on the traceability, especially on the quality control labs. And these are all just the trends of the industry, and then you put a spin of market volatility. When I say volatility, of course, the events don't give a signal and come. COVID did not tell us that it's coming, right? Or neither the Ebola or so many instances of pandemics never give us any heads up or notice. So what does it mean? That the volatility and the speed with which this industry has to react is much, much larger than any other industry, because here it is a need and not a want. So, considering these challenges, when you break down, what I feel personally is that it boils down to how well can you plan and schedule. There are so many areas that we can fix, but from the manufacturing standpoint, the critical aspect is planning and scheduling. Why? Planning is all about proactively preparing yourself, your plant, your factory to produce as per the demand. And scheduling is the capability to react with agility. Sometimes, no matter how well you plan, things may not go as planned, and that should not put someone in the back burner. They should be able to stand up and react to the situation, like the way COVID pandemic has taught us. So it's also very important that we have agile reactive strategies as far as scheduling is concerned. So both planning and scheduling are like two eyes of the factory. Proactively plan and reactively schedule, right? So these are the four areas typically the pharma companies look at. And what are the constraints in these areas? I'll not spend much time on all the four blocks because we have limited time here. But if you see upstream production and downstream production, you can see that one is the bottlenecks depend on product mix. There are so many bottlenecks that are created because of the products mix. And the recipe management and the bill of material management becomes complex when you have a higher product mix. And whenever there is a campaign that is launched to meet the demands or to increase the demand of a certain particular product, by virtue of your sales executives and all of that, then you have to constantly change your setup optimization. That means you're changing your factory configurations to meet the varying demands. You're producing one particular generic drug today, and tomorrow you have to produce some other drug quickly. You have to probably change your factory configuration to accelerate your production and meet up the demands, right? So these are all the challenges that planning and scheduling demands, right? So I'm going down from overall pharma manufacturing trends and challenges, and what are the areas that we should address if we want to become next gen in pharma manufacturing. So with that, setting the context with trends and challenges, I'll talk about digital transformation. We'll just start with where are we as far as digital transformation is concerned, particularly in the domain of manufacturing, and what we should do in the next few years to get there faster. Most of the factories today, if you see the evolution of digital transformation, are there no doubt that they have adopted the lean manufacturing methods. There are so many solutions. So 80% of factories are in this area of the end of 20th century, right? They are using some ERP tools or so many enterprise resource planning tools. But even today, the key aspects of planning and scheduling are done using Excels. And that is the biggest challenge. If someone wants to get to the smart factory, the most important thing in the smart factory is no doubt automation, no doubt connected machines, no doubt flow of information. But the real essence, I feel, lies in intelligent planning and scheduling. Okay, and where does the intelligence come from? It also not just comes from the demand and how do you cope up to the demand and how do you plan your capacity, but also identify the patterns. You bring in your AI machine learning techniques to predict what could be or forecast the demand in a demand sensing manner, not a typical traditional statistical forecasting methods, and also predict your probable failure modes of your factory, uh, when my machine may break down, and what do I do if at all it breaks down. If you can predict earlier, then you can increase your capacity utilization. So how can you use this intelligent planning scheduling by virtue of leveraging the data science, makes the today's transformation. That is what the digital transformation that we all seek as far as manufacturing in India is concerned, not just specifically for pharma, but it is true for pharma industry as well. And when it comes to, again, while the overall digital transformation, we are talking about factory level. When you come to planning and scheduling, it is still manual, it is still static, it is non-collaborative. There is very few factories or pharma manufacturing companies that do a collaborative planning. When I say collaborative, sales, marketing, and factory team, production team, shop floor team, C-level team, everybody coming together and planning their entire next 2 months of deliverables and the orders and all of that. So it happens like in a sequential manner, in a non-collaborative manner. So this is one of the biggest challenge, and this is a challenge. Some may not agree with me, but if you go to any factory shop floor and you see this, Excels are extensively used to achieve this. They are very good tools. I mean, it's a fantastic tool, no doubt, but it's still manual and static and non-collaborative. Just to emphasize what do I mean? If you want to carry out 10 tests and that those 10 tests have to be carried out by one analyst, can you guess what are the number of combinations? You don't have to guess. I put it on the screen. It is almost 3 million combinations. So why do I say that it is not possible manually? Is because those are the number of combinations you have if you want to carry out 10 tests with one analyst, right? This is a factorial that we're looking at. So it becomes complex, and this is in a very simplistic scenario we are taking. So nobody can find a planning optimum using empirical methods that are provided by these standalone tools. And that is what the problem we have to solve. Okay. That's why I say that the planning is the heartbeat of smart factory. Because planning gives you a lot of intelligence, and the intelligence can be used in your predictive machine learning, AI techniques, so that your factory is improving in a closed loop manner with every passing day, because there is so much data that is getting created. So the most important aspect for a pharma manufacturing or any other manufacturing, but specifically for pharma manufacturing, because the volatility and the product mix is high, is about digitalizing the planning and scheduling. And what do I mean by digitalizing planning and scheduling? Is not just about using a tool, but also using a tool that is collaborative, that is agile, that is precise, that is KPI driven. Right? It is not just it's not just a tool where you have to punch in the data and it just throws some numbers. It is KPI driven. I'll take one problem statement here. This is a typical pharmaceutical process where you have so many components at the R&D stage, and then you have a funnel mechanism before you arrive at one compound. So this all happens in the R&D stage. And then the most important aspect is, based on the identified compound, after getting the approvals, you get into manufacturing where your typical objective is production optimization. But it is not done in isolation, because that's a very unique fact of pharma industry. And then you have quality control labs, which are looking at the quality control of the produced goods. All these things are interlinked. R&D, manufacturing, quality control are interlinked. So that there is a feed loop mechanism from quality control to R&D, saying that this particular component, probably this is a problem that we are facing. Then they re-engineer it, and then they probably change the recipe, and they send it back to manufacturing, and then it gets tested. So to be able to orchestrate these three disciplines in a more integrated fashion, right? It is very important that you don't just have the tools which are standalone excellent, but also highly collaborative. Okay. So now boiling down from there, having said the statement, now if you look at the manufacturing part alone, you have to, the scheduling, as I said, scheduling is a critical, planning and scheduling is the key aspect. The planning horizon is broken down into two horizons. One horizon is about 18 months horizon. So typically you plan it once a week, once in a month. And what is the objective here when you plan this? You want to minimize your inventories and increase your service rates. That means you want to ensure that you're able to fulfill your orders on time. It's called OTIF, on time in full. When it comes to scheduling, which is much closer to your day-to-day activity, the horizon could be up to 3 months. And this is what you do daily. And the objective here is increase your productivity, capacity utilization, shortening the lead times. So what am I trying to say is the horizons are different and the objectives are different. You cannot have one-stop shop solution for both the needs. Okay, you should have one solution that can scale up to a planning puzzle and also scale up to scheduling puzzle. And what are the constraints you have to manage in these two areas? In the planning horizon, it's all about product mix, flexible manufacturing, alternative recipes, setup times, campaigns, quality control. Whereas in the scheduling space, as I said, it could be disruption, it could be pandemic. Suddenly you want to reschedule your entire manufacturing. Suddenly, the priorities of the factory can change because there are more pressure on cost. So they want to stop one particular product and launch another product. Okay, and they want to quickly simulate the new product introduction and the impacts of maintenance. Whenever the plant is in maintenance, it has a huge impact on the throughput. So how do you respond to those maintenance downtimes? So all of these are different constraints to manage in these different planning horizons. So managing these on an Excel, managing this on an ERP tool, which is a transactional tool, but not a collaborative optimization tool, can be a challenge, right? That's why we are, for example, there are tools which are used. The use case example which I've given, it is coming from Sanofi. So you have to manage this in a collaborative fashion, from your demand management to managing your capacity and suppliers to getting to your detailed scheduling, and then to be able to do all of this in a what if scenario. When I say what if scenario, what if my demand suddenly spikes up? You should be able to simulate that and see how am I handling my capacity in that case. What if my demand goes down? Can I create more products and keep it stocked in my inventory? What is the impact of it in my cash outflows and cash inflows? So all these things has to be done in more integrated fashion rather than in a disintegrated, siloed fashion. That's how the factories can improve their efficiency. Right? So by doing so, there are so many KPIs. It's not just about putting a tool or XYZ tool, even if it is collaborative. Every technology, every tool, if it has to really enable the next gen manufacturing, it should be KPI based. Is it helping you with on-time delivery? Is it reducing your lead times and waiting times? Is it improving your throughput? That means your capacity utilization, your occupancy rate is increasing. Whatever you're producing, is it to the conformance levels? That means, are you getting the required quality conformance or not? And while doing so, are you able to optimize your costs? Because running a factory is cost intensive. If you're not able to put your costs in check, then that means you're running into trouble, because cost is what pulls your bottom line to a lesser number. So any tool that brings you should be KPI driven. Only that way you know that you are heading towards a smart factory. So in summary, I mean that's what brings me to the end of my presentation. There are some benefits where we have worked with clients and they have shared. There are so many YouTube videos as well. The KPI driven planning and optimization is the most important aspect to be able to enable the next gen pharma manufacturing. Automation is important, connected machines is important, no doubt they have their role to play. But the real intelligence lies in to be able to create a planning and optimization technology that creates a lot of intelligence from the data that you're doing and gives you AI ML models to further improve on your KPIs. Okay, and some of the KPIs that we have worked with some of the clients, I could not name those clients here, but I named one of the clients earlier. So these are the KPIs that they're looking at, right? 58% lead time reduction and 80% manual documentation work reduction, all of it. So 2 points with which I would like to summarize. If you want to move towards next gen pharma manufacturing, if we as country wants to move to next gen pharma manufacturing, it's important that we focus on our planning and scheduling function, because that's what is the heart of a factory, and that we should not do it in a siloed manner. We should do it in a collaborative manner, and we should do with a KPI driven manner, not just for the sake of doing it. Whenever I do, it should result in some KPI improvement. And how do we do that? only if we have what if scenarios. What if my demand reduces? What if my capacity increases? So the technology should give you that capability to play with these various alternatives, and all of this while giving the basic abilities to handle the constraints, handle the variables, and all of that. So optimization, intelligence, and data analytics is the way forward for us to enable our next gen pharma manufacturing.